As the twin suns of Vestara set, Cintor stood alone on the observation deck of the black ship. His weathered hands gripped the cold metal railing as he watched the burning sky fade to darkness. The larger sun, a fierce orange giant, dipped below, the horizon first. The smaller blue dwarf followed, painting the alien sky in shades of purple and red before darkness took over. 300 cycles had passed since humanity's first contact with the collective. 200 since the war began. Cintor closed his eyes, feeling the gentle hum of the ship beneath his feet. Once, the black ship had been the pride of Earth's fleet, a monument to human ingenuity and determination. Now it carried the last survivors of Earth's defense force, running on borrowed time and dwindling hope. "Commander Tintor," came a smooth, artificial voice from the ceiling speakers. "Captain Mira requests your presence on the bridge. Tell her I'll be there shortly, Vex," Cintor replied to the ship's AI. He allowed himself a few more moments of quiet reflection. At 56, Cintor was older than most active crew members. His dark hair had long since given way to gray, and deep lines marked a face that had seen too much loss. He wore the standard black uniform of the fleet, though the insignia on his shoulder, a golden Earth surrounded by stars, now represented a planet that existed only in memory. The observation deck was his refuge. Here, among the stars, he could remember Earth as it was. Blue skies, vast oceans, and the small farmhouse where his grandmother had raised him after his parents died in the first wave of the collective's attack. "Commander?" Vex spoke again. "Captain Mira is becoming impatient," Cintor sighed. "On my way." As he turned from the viewport, memories flooded back unbidden. The fall of Mars Colony, where his wife had been stationed. The destruction of Saturn's rings to deny the collective. A staging area. The faces of crew members lost along the way. Each death added weight to his shoulders, a burden he carried in silence. The corridors of the black ship were dimly lit to conserve power. Most of the crew had retired to their quarters, leaving the passageways empty and quiet. Cintor's footsteps echoed against metal floors as he made his way to the bridge, nodding to the occasional crew member who saluted as he passed. The bridge door slid open with a soft hiss. Captain Mira stood at the central console, her tall figure outlined by the glow of holographic star charts. Though only 32, responsibility had aged her beyond her years. Her dark hair was pulled back in a tight bun, and she rarely smiled these days. "You wanted to see me, Captain?" Cintor asked, stepping onto the bridge. Mira turned, her sharp eyes meeting his. "We're approaching the coordinates. I wanted you here. When we arrive." The coordinates. For months they had been following ancient star maps recovered from Earth's deepest archives, maps that suggested a potential ally against the collective might be found in this remote sector of space. Most of the crew believed this mission to be suicide, a fool's errand based on myths and legends. But options were few, and extinction loomed. "Navigation reports will reach the boundary in 47 minutes, said Lieutenant K from her station. The young officer's fingers danced across her console as she made minor course corrections. "And the collective?" Cintor asked. "No signs." "Of pursuit," answered Officer Reed, the ship's tactical specialist. His young face looked haggard from too many sleepless nights. "But this sector is unmapped. Our sensors are limited." Cintor moved to stand beside Mira, studying the star charts. The region ahead appeared empty. No planets, no stations, nothing but open space. Yet according to the ancient maps, something waited for them there. "Captain," Cintor said quietly, so only she could hear. "The crew deserves to know what we're looking for." Mira's jaw tightened. "They know enough. We're searching for allies. They deserve more than that. They deserve the truth." "The truth?" Mira's voice held a bitter edge. "That we're chasing a story told by your grandmother? A children's tale about ancient beings who might help us. How will that help morale?" Cintor held her gaze. "It's more than a story." Before Mira could respond, Vex's voice cut through the tension. Captain detecting unusual energy readings ahead. All eyes turned to the main view screen as it displayed a swirling cloud of cosmic dust and gas. a nebula that hadn't appeared on any of their charts. Full stop, Mira ordered. Read analysis. Reed frowned at his readings. The nebula is generating some kind of interference. Our long-range scanners can't penetrate it. Is it natural? Cintor asked. Reed hesitated. I don't think so, sir. The energy pattern is too regular, too structured. Almost like... Like what, officer? Mira pressed. Like it's designed to hide something. Silence fell over the bridge as the implications sank in. Cintor felt a strange sensation in his chest. Not fear, but recognition. Somewhere deep in his memories, in stories passed down through generations, he'd heard of this place. The Veil, he whispered. Mira looked at him sharply. What did you say? My grandmother called it the Veil, a curtain of stars hiding those who retreated from the galaxy when the collective first appeared. Your grandmother again, Mira said, but her voice held less skepticism now. How would she know about this place? Cintor had asked himself that question many times. His grandmother, with her strange eyes that sometimes caught the light in unusual ways, had told him stories that no other children heard, stories of beings who had once walked among humans before returning to the stars. At the time, he'd thought, they were just tales to help a young boy cope with the loss of his parents. Now he wasn't so sure. Captain, Reed called out, his voice tight with urgency. Something's happening. The nebula before them pulsed, rings of energy spreading outward like ripples in a pond. The black ship shuddered as the first wave hit them. Shields holding, Kay reported. But our systems are experiencing interference. Weapons online, Mira ordered. Prepare for... No, Cintor interrupted, moving toward the view screen. Don't raise weapons. They're scanning us. They? Mira demanded. Who is they, Commander? Cintor didn't answer. His eyes were fixed on the nebula as it shifted, parts of it becoming transparent, revealing what looked like a corridor of clear space. An invitation. Sir, Reed said, looking at his console in disbelief. The nebula is opening for us. Cintor felt it then, a stirring in his blood, a call he couldn't explain. His grandmother's voice echoed in his memory. When the skies burn and hope seems lost, follow the path between stars. They remember the children of Earth. They wait for one who carries the mark. He turned to Mira, certainty filling him for the first time in years. Captain, we need to proceed. This is what we've been searching for. Mira studied him, conflict clear in her eyes. As captain, her duty was to protect what remained of humanity aboard this ship. As a soldier who had watched the collective systematically destroy human colonies across the galaxy, she knew they needed a miracle. You're certain? She asked. Cintor nodded. As certain as I've ever been about anything. After a long moment, Mira made her decision. Lieutenant K, take us in. Slow approach. Reed, keep shields up but weapons powered down. The black ship moved forward, entering the corridor of clear space within the nebula. As they passed through, the crew watched in awe as the cosmic dust closed behind them, sealing them in. Cintor felt a weight lift from his shoulders. After all the running, all the hiding, all the desperate last stands and narrow escapes, they had finally found what they were looking for. Or rather, they had been found. Commander. Vex's artificial voice sounded different somehow, almost reverent. I'm detecting a transmission. It's unlike anything in my databases. Put it through, Tintor said. No sound came through the speakers. Instead, Cintor felt a presence in his mind. Gentle, curious, ancient. Words formed not in his ears, but in his thoughts. Welcome home, child of Earth. We have waited a long time for your return. Cintor smiled, tears forming in his eyes. His grandmother had been right all along. The journey had only just begun. Deep within the bowels of the black ship, Engineer Reed wiped sweat from his brow as he crawled through a narrow maintenance tunnel. The air was hot and stale, tasting of metal and ozone. His hands moved quickly over the exposed circuitry of the cloaking system. making adjustments that might mean the difference between survival and destruction. "Read status report." Captain Mira's voice crackled through his comm unit. "Almost there, Captain," he replied, connecting 2 fiber optic cables with practice precision. "The cloaking system is at 70% efficiency. That's the best I can do with what we have." There was a pause before Mira responded. "It will have to be enough. We're about to implement Ghost Protocol. You have 5 minutes to get to your station." Reed swallowed hard. Ghost Protocol was a desperate measure, a complete power reduction where all non-essential systems were shut down to avoid detection. It was dangerous, leaving the ship vulnerable, but it might be their only chance to survive this deep in collective territory. "Understood, Captain." Reed out. As he gathered his tools, Reed's thoughts turned to the strange nebula they had entered 12 hours ago. The corridor of clear space had led them deeper and deeper, twisting through the cosmic dust like a path, designed by some intelligent mind. No one knew what waited at the end except perhaps Commander Cintor, who had been unusually quiet since they entered. Reed made his way back to engineering, passing nervous crew members preparing for Ghost Protocol. The black ship had been running for so long that fear had become their constant companion, as familiar as the hum of the engines or the recycled air they breathed. In engineering, Chief Engineer Thomas barked orders as his team secured equipment and powered down non-critical systems. At 45, Thomas was one of the few crew members older than Reed, with hands calloused from decades of keeping ships flying against all odds. "There you are," Thomas said as Reed entered. "I need you on the coolant system. When we power down the main engines, we'll have about 30 seconds before the backup cooling fails. You'll have to manually regulate it until we're clear." Reed nodded, taking his position at the control panel. Around him, the usual bright lights of engineering dimmed as system after system went dark. The familiar hum of the engines quieted to a whisper. "Attention all crew." Captain Mira's voice came through the emergency channel. "Ghost Protocol initiating in 3, 2, 1. The lights went out completely. Emergency lighting cast a dim red glow over the room as the ship seemed to hold its breath. Reed's fingers hovered over his controls, waiting for the telltale spike in temperature that would signal his moment to act. Meanwhile, several decks above, Commander Cintor moved through the darkened corridors with purpose. Instead of heading to the bridge where he should have been during Ghost Protocol, he made his way to a section of the ship few knew existed, the archive chamber. The black ship had been built in the final days before Earth fell, designed not just as a warship, but as a vessel to preserve humanity's knowledge and history. Hidden behind ordinary bulkheads lay rooms filled with data crystals containing everything from ancient literature to cutting-edge research, protected by security protocols known only to a select few. Cintor placed his palm against a seemingly ordinary section of wall. A hidden scanner read his biometrics and a door silently slid open, revealing a small circular room. As he stepped inside, soft blue lights activated automatically, running on a power system separate from the main grid. "Identify," came a computerized voice different from Vex's. "Commander Eli Cintor, authorization Omega 73 Delta. Voice pattern and authorization confirmed. Welcome, Commander." The center of the room held a cylindrical pillar containing thousands of data crystals, each no larger than a fingernail. Cintor approached it, his fingers dancing across a control panel with practiced ease. The cylinder rotated, crystals shifting position, until a single red crystal moved forward. Cintor removed it carefully, as if handling something infinitely precious. In a way, it was. This crystal contained his grandmother's personal logs, recorded before her death 20 years ago. He'd never accessed them before, feeling it would be an invasion of her privacy. But now, as the black ship journeyed deeper into the unknown, he needed answers only she might provide. He inserted the crystal into a reader, and a holographic display flickered to life. His grandmother's face appeared, older than he remembered, her, with the same strange eyes that sometimes caught the light in unusual ways. "Eli," the recording began, using his first name, a name he rarely used anymore. If you're watching this, then you found the path I always knew you would. I've kept secrets from you, secrets about your heritage, about who you really are." Tintor's heart raced as he listened. "I was not born on Earth," his grandmother continued, her voice steady despite the weight of her confession. "I came there as an emissary, a bridge between two worlds. Your grandfather was human, but I was not entirely. I am what the ancient texts call a halfling, created to understand humanity from within." Cintor sank into a nearby chair, his legs suddenly weak. The stories she had told him as a child, tales of star travelers and ancient guardians, hadn't been fairy tales after all. They had been her trying to prepare him in her own way for the truth. "The beings who helped create me are called many names across the galaxy. Some call them the architects, others the first ones. They watched over humanity for millennia, guiding your evolution from afar. When the collective emerged and began their campaign of absorption, the architects retreated to the spaces between stars, hidden behind veils of cosmic dust." She leaned closer to the recording device, her eyes intense. "But they left a key, Eli. They modified certain bloodlines to carry genetic markers, patterns in DNA that would activate when the time was right. You carry that marker. You are not just delivering a message to them, you are the message." The recording continued, explaining how the genetic modifications would begin to manifest as he approached the architect's sanctuary. Tintor thought of the strange sensations he'd been experiencing since they entered the nebula, heightened awareness, unusual clarity of thought, and the voice he'd heard in his mind. "Your body will change," his grandmother said, as if reading his thoughts across time. "Do not fear it. It is your heritage awakening, preparing you for what comes next. The architects will recognize you as one of their children, and through you, they might choose to help humanity once more." The recording ended with her final words. "Remember, Eli, whatever you become, whatever choices lie ahead, you are still human where it matters most. In your heart." The holograph faded, leaving Tintor alone with revelations that shook the foundations of his identity. He was not fully human. His grandmother had been a hybrid, an emissary from an ancient race that had helped shape humanity's destiny. Suddenly, the ship lurched, throwing Cintor from his chair. The emergency lighting flickered as the vessel shuddered again. "All hands to battle stations," Captain Mira's voice came through the emergency channel, tense with urgency. "Ghost protocol has been compromised. We've been detected." Cintor quickly removed the data crystal and concealed it in a pocket. As he raced toward the bridge, his mind processed everything he had learned. The genetic marker, the changes beginning within him. They were real, not imagination or stress, as he'd tried to convince himself. He arrived on the bridge to find controlled chaos. Officers moved with practiced efficiency despite the fear evident in their eyes. On the main view screen, a horrifying sight greeted him. 3 collective vessels had appeared at the edge of the nebula, their massive forms like predatory shadows against the cosmic dust. "They found us," Mira said as he took his place beside her. "The nebula's interference masked their approach until they were nearly on top of us." Cintor studied the enemy ships. The collective vessels were unlike human designs, organic and mechanical merged into something that defied conventional engineering. Their hulls rippled like living tissue, weapons protruding like thorns from a twisted branch. "Options?" he asked, his voice steady despite the revelation still echoing in his mind. "We can't outrun them," Mira replied. "Not in this nebula. We can't outgun them either." "Then we keep going," Tintor said, a new certainty filling him. "Deeper into the nebula. The path is still open ahead of us." Mira looked at him, searching his face. "What do you know that you're not telling me, Commander?" Before Cintor could answer, Lieutenant K called out from her station. "Captain, something's happening to the nebula." All eyes turned to the view screen as the cosmic dust between the black ship and the collective vessels began to swirl, forming a dense wall that blocked their pursuers from view. "The nebula is protecting us," Reed said in disbelief from his tactical station. Cintor felt it then, a presence in his mind, stronger now, guiding him, Without thinking, he stepped forward and placed his hands on the navigation console. "Commander, what are you doing?" Mira demanded, but Tintor didn't answer. His fingers moved across the controls with impossible precision, inputting coordinates. He couldn't possibly know. His eyes reflected an otherworldly light as the ship responded to his commands, accelerating along a new course, deeper into the heart of the nebula, toward whatever destiny awaited them there. Behind them, hidden by the wall of cosmic dust, the collective vessels fired blindly, their weapons unable to find their target. The black ship slipped away, guided by a man who was beginning to understand that he was more than human, and less than human, all at once. The journey continued. The black ship drifted through what the crew now called the Silent Nebula. For 3 days they had journeyed deeper into the cosmic cloud, following a path that seemed to form ahead of them and close behind. The usual background noise of space, radiation, signals, stellar chatter, and the distant echoes of civilizations had gone completely silent, as if this region existed in its own pocket of reality. In the tactical room, Commander Cintor stood before a 3-dimensional map of their journey, watching as Lieutenant K added their latest position. The holographic display showed their winding path through the nebula, a trail of blue dots marking each day's progress toward coordinates that seemed to lead nowhere. "Still nothing on long-range scanners," Kay reported, her voice tight with frustration. "This nebula blocks everything." Across the table, Commander Vance slammed his fist down. "We're flying blind into enemy territory following ghost stories and fairy tales." He glared at Cintor. "With all due respect, sir, this mission was questionable from the start. Now it's become a suicide run." Vance was head of security, a position that made paranoia a professional requirement. At 40, he had survived 3 major battles against the Collective by always expecting the worst. His left eye had been replaced with a cybernetic implant after a close encounter with Collective forces on Europa, giving his face an asymmetrical appearance that matched his blunt personality. "We've avoided the Collective for 3 days," Tintor replied calmly. "The nebula is protecting us." "Protecting us?" Vance scoffed. "Or hurting us? This could all be a trap." Dr. Aaliyah, who had been quiet until now, finally spoke up. "I agree with Commander Vance." As the ship's lead scientist, Aaliyah's opinion carried weight. Her dark eyes held a sharpness that missed nothing, and her reputation for caution was well earned. "The radiation signatures ahead match nothing in our databases. We're heading toward something unknown, potentially hostile." "Everything unknown isn't automatically hostile," Cintor argued. "In my experience," Vance countered, "it usually is." Captain Mira, who had been listening from the doorway, stepped into the room. All eyes turned to her as she approached the holographic display. "We've come too far to turn back," she said, studying the map. "And even if we wanted to, I'm not convinced we could find our way out. This nebula shifts and changes. Our path back may no longer exist. So we're trapped," Vance muttered. "Or guided," Cintor offered. Mira gave him a careful look. She had noticed the changes in him over the past 3 days, subtle differences in how he carried himself, how his eyes sometimes reflected light oddly, how he seemed to know things he shouldn't about their course. She hadn't confronted him yet, but her questioning glances told him she soon would. "What's your recommendation, Commander?" she asked, giving him a chance to share whatever he knew. Cintor hesitated. How could he explain what was happening to him? The dreams that plagued his sleep, visions of crystal cities and beings of light communicating in mathematical patterns. The growing awareness that stretched beyond his physical form, allowing him to sense the nebula's currents and flow, the knowledge that emerged in his mind without explanation, as if memories long dormant were awakening. "We continue forward," he finally said. "Whatever's waiting for us, we need to find it." Before Mira could respond, the tactical room door slid open and Chief Engineer Thomas rushed in, his face pale. "Captain, you need to see this," he said, breathing hard as if he'd run all the way. "Something's happening to the ship." They followed him to engineering, where a crowd of crew members had gathered around a section of the outer hull. Normally solid metal, The wall now rippled with faint patterns of light that moved like water. Engineer Reed stood nearby, scanning the phenomenon with a handheld device. It started about 20 minutes ago, Reed explained as they approached. The effect is spreading throughout the ship. It's not damaging anything, just changing it somehow. Dr. Aaliyah pushed forward, her scientific curiosity overcoming her caution. She reached out a hand toward the rippling metal, stopping just short of touching it. "Incredible," she whispered. "The molecular structure is being altered at the quantum level. But how?" She turned to look at Cintor, her eyes widening as she saw his face. Following her gaze, the others turned as well. Cintor's skin had developed the same subtle luminescence as the hull, faint patterns of light moving beneath the surface. He hadn't noticed it himself, but now he could feel it. A warmth spreading through his body, a sensation of connection to the ship and the nebula beyond. "Commander," Mira said carefully, "I think you need to tell us what's happening to you." The crew backed away from him, fear and confusion on their faces. Only Reed stepped closer, his scanner now pointed at Cintor. "The readings are similar," Reed confirmed. "Whatever's affecting the ship is affecting Commander Cintor too. Or maybe it's the other way around." "I can explain," Cintor began, but a sudden pain shot through his head, doubling him over. Visions flashed before his eyes, not memories this time, but real-time images of something massive approaching through the nebula. "We need to get to the bridge," he gasped. "Now." Despite their fear, years of discipline kicked in. Captain Mira ordered most of the crew back to their stations, while she, Vance, Aaliyah, and Reed followed Cintor to the bridge. As they moved through the corridors, the light patterns on Cintor's skin grew brighter, casting an eerie glow. They reached the bridge just as a massive energy spike erupted from the nebula's heart. The ship's systems faltered, lights flickering and control panels going dark before emergency power kicked in. "Report," Mira called out, taking her position at the command chair. "Massive energy surge, origin unknown," the sensor officer replied, fingers flying over his console. "It's not like anything we've encountered before, not collective, not human." On the main view screen, the nebula ahead began to part, revealing a vast, empty space beyond, a bubble of clear vacuum in the heart of the cosmic cloud. As the black ship entered this space, what awaited them stole the breath from every person on the bridge. 7 massive structures hung suspended in the void, arranged in a perfect heptagon. They weren't ships, but something between machine and organism, pulsing with blue-white energy that matched the patterns now flowing across Cintor's skin and the ship's hull. Each structure was the size of a small moon, shaped like geometric crystals with impossible angles and surfaces that seemed to both absorb and emit light. Panic spread through the crew. Some reached for weapons, others froze in their seats. Captain Mira remained outwardly calm, though her knuckles whitened as she gripped the arms of her chair. "Are they scanning us?" she asked. "No, Captain," Reed answered, checking his readings. "They're waiting." As if in a trance, Tintor walked toward the navigation console. The officer stationed there moved aside without being asked, something in Cintor's expression making it clear he should not be stopped. "Commander, what are you doing?" Mira demanded, rising from her chair. Cintor didn't answer. His eyes now glowed with the same blue-white light as the structures. His hands moved across the controls with impossible precision, guiding the ship toward the center of the heptagon. "Stop him!" Vance shouted, drawing his sidearm. Dr. Aaliyah stepped between them. "Wait, look at the readings!" On her tablet, data streamed across the screen. Cintor's vital signs, brain activity, and genetic structure, all changing before their eyes. His DNA was restructuring itself, becoming more complex, more ordered. "The modifications in his DNA are activating," she said in awe. "He's evolving." "Into what?" Mira asked, her voice barely above a whisper. None of them had an answer. All they could do was watch as the black ship, guided by Cintor's transformed consciousness, moved into position at the exact center of the 7 structures. As they reached the midpoint, all 7 ancient constructs pulsed in unison, sending waves of energy washing over the ship. Rather than damaging them, the energy seemed to flow through the vessel like a cleansing tide. Systems that had been failing for months suddenly operated at peak efficiency. Hull breaches sealed themselves. Even the air felt fresher, cleaner. And in the midst of it all stood Cintor, a bridge between humanity and whatever ancient power had created this sanctuary. Through flashes of ancestral memory, images and knowledge passed down through his grandmother's modified genes, he began to understand. The beings that humans would call the architects had watched over Earth for millennia. They had visited in humanity's infancy, leaving subtle genetic changes that would flower into intelligence, creativity, and an insatiable curiosity about the stars. When the collective emerged and began absorbing or destroying all other life in the galaxy, the architects retreated to this hidden realm. But they left behind seeds, humans with special genetic markers, including Cintor's grandmother. Hybrids, who could serve as messengers when the time was right. As this knowledge filled him, Cintor finally understood the tragic truth. The collective wasn't hunting humanity out of hatred or for resources. They were eliminating humans out of fear. Fear of what humanity was designed to become by these ancient beings whom the collective called the bringers of change. In that moment of clarity, standing on the bridge with the crew watching in fearful awe, Tintor felt his consciousness expand beyond his physical form. He sensed the architects' presence, their attention focused on this small ship and its desperate crew, the last free remnants of a species they had helped create ages ago. A question formed in his expanded mind, one he directed toward the ancient beings whose structures surrounded them. Will you help us? The answer came not in words but in a flood of images and emotions, compassion mixed with caution, hope tempered by ancient wisdom. The architects had been waiting for this moment, for one who carried their mark to return. But their help would come at a price, and the choice ahead would test humanity's definition of survival itself. As Cintor's awareness returned to the bridge, he found Captain Mira standing before him, her expression a mixture of fear and determination. "What happened?" she asked. "What did you see?" Cintor looked at her, his eyes still glowing with inner light. "They've been waiting for us," he said simply, "and now they offer a choice." Time seemed to stand still aboard the black ship as it hovered at the center of the 7 massive structures. The bridge crew remained frozen in place, caught between fear and wonder. Captain Mira stood before Cintor, waiting for him to explain the choice he had mentioned. "What choice?" she finally asked when he remained silent, his eyes still glowing with that strange inner light. Cintor blinked, the glow fading slightly as he focused on her. "The architects offer sanctuary," he said, his voice carrying unusual harmonics that made it sound as if multiple people were speaking at once. "But their help comes with a price." Before he could explain further, Dr. Aaliyah approached with her scanner. "Commander, your body is changing at the cellular level. Your brain activity has tripled, and there are energy patterns I've never seen in a human being before." Cintor nodded as if this was expected. "It's the activation of the genetic modifications my grandmother spoke of. I am becoming what I was always meant to be, a bridge between humanity and the architects." Around them, the ship hummed with new energy. Crew members reported systems coming back online stronger than before, damage repairing itself, even the air recyclers working at perfect efficiency. Whatever energy the 7 structures had bathed them in was healing the black ship. "Captain," Reed called from his station, "I'm detecting movement at the edge of the nebula. Collective ships, at least 5 of them. They found a way in." The momentary peace shattered as the crew snapped back to battle readiness. Mira moved to the command chair, issuing orders with practiced efficiency. "Time to intercept?" she asked. "At their current speed, less than 30 minutes, Reed replied. Mira turned to Cintor. "Whatever this choice is, we need to make it quickly." Cintor closed his eyes, reaching out with his transformed consciousness. He could sense the architect's presence more clearly now, vast, ancient minds observing them with curiosity and compassion. They had withdrawn from the galaxy eons ago, choosing isolation over conflict with the expanding collective. But they had never abandoned their interest in humanity. the species they had helped guide since its earliest days. When he opened his eyes again, the glow had intensified. "They offer us protection," he said. "A place among them, safe from the collective, but to accept means changing, evolving beyond our current form." "Evolving?" Dr. Aaliyah asked, scientific curiosity overcoming her fear. "How?" "Abandoning our physical bodies," Cintor explained, "transforming our consciousness into energy patterns similar to theirs, becoming like them." A heavy silence fell over the bridge as the implications sank in. "That's not survival, Commander," Vance said flatly. "That's extinction with a pretty name." "Is it?" Cintor challenged. "If your mind, your memories, your essential self continues, is it really death? Or just a different form of existence?" Mira shook her head. "We need more information before we can make a decision this momentous. The crew deserves a choice." "I agree," Cintor said. "And there's more you need to understand. About the collective, about why they hunt us so relentlessly." He moved to the center of the bridge, and as he did, the air around him shimmered. A holographic display formed, but unlike anything their technology could produce. Three-dimensional images appeared, showing Earth as it was millions of years ago. "The architects visited Earth when humanity was in its infancy," Tintor explained as the images shifted, showing strange crystal vessels descending from the skies. "They saw potential in early humans, not just for intelligence, but for a specific kind of consciousness. They made subtle changes to your ancestors, planting seeds that would flower over millennia. The hologram showed human evolution accelerating, brain size increasing, societies forming." "What kind of changes?" Dr. Aaliyah asked, captivated despite herself. "The capacity for abstract thought, symbolic reasoning, art, music, dreams," Cintor replied. "But most importantly, the ability to evolve consciousness itself, to transcend biological limitations through technology, and eventually, through energy transformation." The display changed, showing a possible future where humans evolved into beings of pure energy and consciousness, no longer bound by physical form. "This is what the collective fears," Tintor continued. "Not what humanity is now, but what it was designed to become. The collective absorbs physical species, technology, resources, but they cannot absorb or control energy beings like the architects. To them, humanity represents an existential threat, a species that might evolve beyond their ability to control or destroy." Commander Vance scoffed. "So they're trying to wipe us out before we can become gods? Seems a bit far-fetched." "Not gods," Tintor corrected. "Just different. Free in ways the collective can never be." As he spoke, his transformation accelerated. His skin now glowed brightly enough to cast shadows, the patterns beneath his surface moving faster, more purposefully. Though his form remained human-shaped, he seemed less solid somehow, as if the boundary between his body and the surrounding air was becoming permeable. Dr. Aaliyah kept scanning him, her face reflecting both professional fascination and personal concern. "It's happening to you already, isn't it? The transformation." Cintor nodded. "I'm further along the path because of my grandmother's heritage. My DNA was already part architect. The process is easier for me, but still challenging." "And painful?" she asked softly, noticing how he occasionally winced. "Yes," he admitted, "but also beautiful." His eyes held a faraway look. "I can sense so much more now. The ship, the nebula, the stars beyond. Even your thoughts, not words but emotions, patterns." Captain Mira stepped forward. "You said, we have a choice. What exactly are our options?" Cintor refocused on her. "Three paths lie before us. First, we can reject the architect's offer and try to escape the nebula before the collective arrives. The architects will not stop us, but they cannot protect us once we leave. Second, accept their offer. Begin the transformation. Become like them. Beings of energy and consciousness no longer bound by physical form. Safe from the collective forever. And the third option? Mira pressed. A compromise. The architects can help us modify our ship, give us technology to hide from the collective more effectively. They can show us safe paths through the galaxy, places where we might find other survivors. But eventually, the collective will find us again. It's only a matter of time. From his tactical station, Reed called out, "Captain, collective ship's now 20 minutes away. They're accelerating." Mira paced the bridge, weighing impossible choices. "I can't make this decision for everyone," she finally said. "The crew needs to know, to choose for themselves." "There's no time for a vote," Vance argued. "There has to be," Mira insisted. "This isn't just about survival. It's about what it means to be human." Cintor nodded. "The architects understand. They will hold the collective at bay long enough for your crew to decide. But know this, the choice need not be the same for everyone." "What do you mean?" Dr. Aaliyah asked. "Some may choose to evolve, others to remain human. The architects can accommodate both. Those who wish to continue in physical form can take the modified ship and the knowledge the architects offer. Those who choose transformation will stay here." As he spoke, Cintor's transformation progressed visibly. His body now seemed composed more of light than solid matter. Though his features remained recognizable, the crew watched in a mixture of fear and fascination as he demonstrated what they might become. "And what about you, Commander?" Mira asked quietly. "What is your choice?" Cintor looked down at his luminous hands. "I think my path was chosen, long ago, though I didn't know it. I'm already changing, already becoming something new." He looked up at her with eyes that now seemed to contain galaxies. "But I won't abandon you or the crew. Whatever path humanity chooses, I will help ease the transition." Dr. Aaliyah's scanner beeped urgently. "Captain, the commander's physical form is becoming unstable. If this continues." "I know," Cintor said calmly. "Soon I will exist more as energy than matter. But my consciousness, myself, remains intact, expanded, but still me." "Captain," Mira made her decision. "We need to inform the crew immediately. I'll address them from here." She turned to communications. "Ship-wide channel now." As the channel opened, Mira spoke with the clear authority that had kept them alive through years of running. "This is your captain speaking. We have made contact with an ancient species called the Architects. They offer us protection from the collective, but at a significant cost that each of you must understand before deciding." She explained the situation concisely. The approaching collective ships, the three options before them, and the transformation that acceptance of the Architects' offer would entail. "This is not a decision I can make for you," she concluded. "Each crew member must choose their own path. Report to your section leaders within 10 minutes to register your choice. That is all." As the channel closed, silence fell over the bridge. The enormity of the moment weighed on all of them. Through the view screen, they could see the 7 massive structures pulsing in perfect synchronization, waiting for humanity's answer. Reed broke the silence. "Collective ships 15 minutes out. They're charging weapons." Cintor, now more light than man, moved toward the center of the bridge. "The time for decision is upon us," he said, his voice echoing strangely. "But know this. Whatever you choose, humanity will survive, though perhaps not in the form you once knew." Around him, the air shimmered with potential, with futures yet to be written. The choice that would determine the fate of the human species now rested in the hands of the last survivors aboard the Black Ship. 10 minutes felt like both an eternity and an instant, as the Black Ship's crew made the most important decision of their lives. In the mess hall, the recreation area, and the crew quarters, people huddled in small groups, discussing, arguing, and sometimes simply holding each other in silence. Some wept, others prayed, and a few stood alone, lost in private thoughts. On the bridge, Captain Mira watched the timer count down. 5 minutes until the collective arrives, Reed announced, his voice tight with tension. "And our crew's decision? Mira asked. Lieutenant K looked up from her console where reports from section leaders were coming in. It's divided, Captain. About 60% want to remain human and take the modified ship. The rest... She hesitated. The rest have chosen transformation. Mira closed her eyes briefly. She had expected this outcome, yet hearing it confirmed made it real in a way that twisted her heart. Whatever happened next, the black ship's crew, their makeshift family forged through years of running and fighting, would be split forever. And you, Captain? Cintor asked, his form now barely contained within human shape, light spilling from him in gentle waves. What is your choice? All eyes turned to Mira. As captain, she had not yet declared her decision, wanting her crew to choose freely without her influence. My place is with the ship, she said firmly. With those who wish to remain human and continue the fight. They will need leadership in the difficult days ahead. Cintor nodded, acceptance in his luminous gaze. And you, Dr. Aaliyah? Commander Vance? Aaliyah stepped forward, her scientific curiosity warring with caution. I choose transformation, she said. The opportunity to understand consciousness beyond physical form. It's everything I've studied my entire life. Vance scowled. I'll stay human, thank you. No offense, Commander, but what you're becoming. He gestured at Cintor's glowing form. That's not for me. No offense taken. Cintor replied with a smile that somehow remained warm despite his increasingly alien appearance. Each path has its own courage. Reed's console beeped urgently. Captain, collective ships entering the nebula's outer boundary, 3 minutes to weapons range. We're out of time, Mira said. Commander Cintor, what do we do? Now? Cintor raised his hands, which now seemed composed entirely of light. The architects are ready. Those who choose to stay human should move to the ship's port side. Those who choose transformation, to starboard. The order was relayed throughout the ship. Crew members said hasty goodbyes, some calm and accepting, others tearful and desperate. Families faced the hardest decisions. Parents and children sometimes choosing different paths. Partners embracing one last time before separating. In engineering, Chief Engineer Tomas had constructed a makeshift quantum transmitter using parts from the ship's communication array. As one of those choosing to remain human, he had worked frantically to build this device at Cintor's request. It's ready, he reported via comm. But I'm not sure how powerful the signal will be. It will be enough, Cintor assured him. Bring it to the bridge. As Thomas arrived with the jury-rigged transmitter, Cintor placed his luminous hands upon it. The device hummed with new energy, its components restructuring into more efficient configurations under his touch. What is this for? Mira asked. A message, Cintor explained, to all remaining human outposts scattered across the stars. They deserve to know what we've discovered, the choice that lies before them. Reed's voice cut through the moment. Collective ships 1 minute to weapons range. They're charging main cannons. Through the view screen, they could see the 5 collective vessels approaching. Massive biomechanical constructs shaped like predatory sea creatures from Earth's ancient oceans. Their hulls rippled with weapon ports opening like hungry mouths. Now, Cintor said, his voice carrying an authority that seemed to resonate through the ship itself. The separation must begin. He raised his arms and the 7 structures surrounding the black ship pulsed in unison. A wave of energy washed over the vessel, but instead of damaging it, the energy began to divide it, not physically tearing it apart, but creating a kind of dimensional split. On screens throughout the ship, crew members watched in awe as a perfect duplicate of the black ship seemed to phase into existence alongside the original. Yet it wasn't truly a duplicate. It was the same ship existing in 2 states simultaneously, the quantum possibilities of both choices manifesting in reality. Those who choose to remain human, Cintor instructed, his voice now heard in every corner of both vessels. Focus your thoughts on the physical, on your bodies, on the sensation of breath and heartbeat. The crew members on the port side did, as instructed, some closing their eyes in concentration. Those who choose transformation focus on consciousness itself, Not what you perceive, but that which perceives. Focus on the awareness behind your thoughts. On the starboard side, crew members followed this guidance, many experiencing an immediate sensation of lightness, of boundaries beginning to dissolve. As the process continued, the two versions of the ship began to separate more distinctly. In the version choosing humanity, all remained solid and unchanged. In the other, both people and ship began to glow with the same luminescence that now defined Cintor, matter starting its transition to energy. "The collective has fired," Reed shouted from his station on the human ship. "Impact in 10 seconds. Cintor, now fully transformed into a being of pure light yet still recognizable in shape, moved to the quantum transmitter. "It's time for the message," he said, his voice somehow both human and much more. "So that all humanity can make their own choice." With a thought, he activated the enhanced device. It hummed to life, drawing power not from the ship's systems but from Cintor himself. Through this connection, he began to broadcast not just words or images but his complete experience, the truth of humanity's engineered origins, the architect's offer, and the choice that now lay before all survivors of Earth. The message streamed outward, bypassing normal communication channels, traveling through quantum entanglement to reach every human outpost, every hiding place, every last survivor across the stars. As the transmission concluded, the first collective weapons fire reached the nebula's edge, but instead of continuing toward the ships, the energy beams curved and dispersed, absorbed by the protective field the 7 architect structures had created. "They cannot reach us yet," Cintor explained, "but this protection is temporary. Both ships must depart soon, each to its own destiny." Captain Mira stood tall on the bridge of the human ship, watching as their sister vessel and its crew continued their transformation, becoming more energy than matter with each passing moment. "What happens to them now?" she asked Tintor, whose form was visible on their view screen though he physically remained with the transforming ship. "They will join the architects," he answered. "Learn from them, grow beyond current understanding. Eventually they may become architects themselves, guardians of consciousness throughout the universe." "And us?" Mira asked. "Those who stay human?" "Your ship has been modified with architect technology. It will take you to safe regions of space where the collective has not yet reached. There are others there, human survivors who may join you. The knowledge I've shared will help you understand your potential, even in physical form." Cintor's expression became solemn. "The path ahead will not be easy for either group. Those who transform must learn to exist in ways they cannot yet imagine. Those who remain human must continue to survive in a galaxy where the collective hunts them. Both paths require courage." On the bridge of the human ship, Commander Vance stepped forward. "We didn't survive this long to give up now," he said with unexpected gentleness. "We'll find a way." Cintor smiled. "That determination is why the architects chose humanity in the first place." The fully transformed ship now glowed with the same blue-white light as the 7 structures. Its hull had become transparent, revealing the crew within, forms of light that still held human shape but were clearly no longer bound by physical limitations. "It's time," Cintor said. "Both ships must now choose their paths." As the 2 vessels prepared to depart, one to the hidden regions of space where humanity might rebuild, the other to join the architects in their ancient vigil, Cintor transmitted one final message to both crews. "We don't all need to choose the same path," his voice echoed in their minds. "That's what makes us human, our ability to forge different futures from the same past. Some will guard our physical heritage, keeping alive what it means to exist, in body as well as mind. Others will explore the frontiers of consciousness itself, evolving toward what humanity was always meant to become. But remember," he continued, "whichever path you've chosen, you carry the essence of humanity with you. In physical form, or as beings of energy, you are the children of Earth. That connection can never be broken." As the black ship separated into its 2 destinies, one accelerating toward distant stars where other human survivors waited, the other dissolving into patterns of light to join the architects, Cintor activated the ship's final defensive protocol, not to destroy their enemies but to create a momentary bridge between worlds, allowing both vessels to escape the approaching collective. The nebula flared with blinding light as the protocol engaged. When it faded, both ships were gone, each carrying half of humanity's last free survivors toward radically different futures. The 7 architect structures began to fade as well, returning to their hidden dimension until they might be needed again. In the empty space they left behind, the collective vessels slowed, their sensors detecting no trace of their prey. The hunt would continue elsewhere, but for now, humanity had escaped, and more importantly, had found not one path forward, but 2. The black ship's journey had ended. Humanity's new journey had just begun. To be continued in Chapter 51, Divergent.
Paths